What is this? What are they doing? Why is everyone floating in the air? Why? Why? Welcome everyone to The Secret of the Silver Earring, where 95% of the plot has crud all to do with a silver earring. After the palate cleanser with Shadow of Mordor, stepping back into Holmes' shoes felt like waking up one morning and saying, "I'm ready for anything." But then I realized I'm playing a 2000s era adventure game. To give some credit, improvements have been made, but also new frustrations that made me wonder, was Mystery of the Mummy an underrated masterpiece? It's better to show you, so get ready for another spoiler-filled journey that may or may not damage the little gray cells. First, let me explain the black borders you see. The good news is that the game runs on Windows 10 with no hitches, and I can record clips without desktop exposure. The bad news is that there's no widescreen support. The game did encompass all of the screen, but this is how it came out. Still, this is only a taste of what's to come. On to the premise.
Dear Mr. Holmes, please let me thank you one more time for your help in solving the case of the Turkish medallion. I'm sure that if the story could go public, the whole country would be as grateful as I am to you. As you may have surmised, I have a very urgent and confidential matter which requires your immediate assistance. You probably are aware that we are going to celebrate the birthday of a very important person, a member of the government.
To simplify, Holmes and Watson are invited to a reception hosted by a Mr. Bromsby. Holmes talks about his observations for a long time when they get there. In fact, a lot of the dialogue is long-winded. I'll spare you the pain when I can. While we're here, let me tell you about the main voiceovers. This game is the debut for David Riley, the actor who would play Watson through the Testament. Holmes is played by Guy Harris, whom I thought to be a younger, livelier Rick Simmons, until my script editor pointed it out. Still, these are probably the best performances for the classic Holmes games, very energetic and spirited. Moving on, Bromsby makes a speech.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me thank you all for attending this special reception. In fact, this moment is a turning point for many people.
And is immediately murdered. Off to the side, a woman is seen with powder just dissolving in the air, giving us our first suspect. Holmes acts immediately and tells Watson to let no one leave the premises. From here Oh, wow! We're in third person now? A very drastic departure from the Mystery of the Mummy. It still has point-and-click controls, but this feels kind of refreshing. I know what I said in The Awakened about preferring first person, but playing exclusively third person has given me more insight. You have a wider view, and your cursor is the main way of finding things. So you could swipe over areas instead of relying on your own eyes. The downside is the notorious pixel hunt, where you'll have to click on specific spots to actually interact with them. This also applies to items hidden in view. For example, this glove that blends in with the environment. This is also because highlighting items hadn't completely caught on yet. Moving on with the mystery, Holmes questions everyone still within the manor. Hearing them talk, they don't seem taken aback by the murder.
What sort of man was Sir Bromsby? I mean, as an employer?
Troublesome and bad-tempered, but he paid well.
Well, as an employer, he was not easily satisfied, always insisting on some Indian or French dish. That old Fowlett put it into Sir Bromsby's head that this Frenchman prepare better meals than the English.
He could be the very devil at times, but not the worst. If you had just known my father. And then the master was so generous with our wages.
I hear words, but I don't hear mourning or distress. The woman with the powder turns out to be Lavinia Bromsby, Mr. Bromsby's daughter and heir. The man next to her is Grimble, Bromsby's business partner. I want to believe she's crying for her father, but she sounds more on the verge of a cough. One man, Lieutenant Harrington, speaks on behalf of Lavinia's innocence.
When one of the doors opened, I did see a person hidden from the other's view. A beautiful young lady stood just at the threshold. I felt somewhat ashamed for staring at her so intensely, but her considerable charms captured my full attention until the dreadful shooting took place.
His compatriot, Colonel Patterson, confirms this. He claims that, while his sight is poor, his ears could discern a pistol going off.
I will add that if Lieutenant Harrington says that he saw a flea dancing with a fly in this place, you can take it on trust.
All the dialogue can be reviewed in the menu, as well as any clues you find and examine. The menus look very familiar too, as seen in later games. This is basically the foundation for all other Holmes games to come. As we find the clues, I will say that the environments have drastically improved over the previous game. The fidelity is crystal clear and much more appealing. The character designs are better and even stick out in levels, but perhaps a bit too much. Walking here, Holmes' shadow is not actually touching the wall. There are also moments where he seems to be in Wonka's funhouse hallway. The most rational deduction is that the levels are 2D pictures conflicting with 3D characters. As you progress though, you'll conclude that everyone has magical abilities. Dark Mage Watson might even be teaching them. As for clues, I won't reveal every detail, just the most important. Harrington's testimony corresponds with traces of black powder on a doorway. The perp did retreat, but not outside. Instead, he hid himself behind some armor. He might have also been disguised, since we find a button for a soldier's costume, remnants of red hair, and a particular cigar brand both inside and out. Another thing to note is the tables, which are arranged very unusually. According to testimonies, it turns out that it was all arranged by a Frenchman who wanted everything to be organized in a specific way. He even noted who suffered from inadequate sight or hearing. His pamphlet confirms that Patterson was both blind and deaf. Take note of this. Meanwhile, Watson talks to everyone in the courtyard. The only clueless one seems to be Harrington's drunk driver.
Did you hear the shot?
What shot? Oh, the shots. Great reception, isn't it?
I have to go. Are you all right?
Very good. Bye, madam.
After all of that, Lestrade joins the investigation. He seems sure that Lavinia is the culprit, so of course that means he's in the wrong. Arriving home, Holmes examines the clues through chemistry puzzles, and Watson finds out the cigar brand is from Brazil. After this, we get to do a quiz, which is a waste of time. Only a few questions help solve the mystery. Everything around those is filler. This makes me long for the mind palaces of later titles. Lestrade arrives and gives us his report from the crime scene. Besides Lavinia, one other person was absent from the ballroom that evening. That person is Horace Fowlett, Bromsby's lawyer. We head back to the estate and confirm that everyone knows black magic, even Holmes. The most relevant fact is that Lavinia and her father weren't on good terms.
I do remember one instance in India, where Sir Bromsby attacked a friend of Miss Lavinia. He was our native cartman's son. It seems he spilled a jug full of water that was intended for Sir Bromsby to wash his face. Bromsby began cursing and thrashing the boy before his daughter's very eyes. Miss Lavinia took her friend's part and spoke to her father most rudely.
Lavinia gives her account and notes that her father had been more anxious than usual. She also admits that Harrington had been by to see her, meaning church bells and wedding cakes will be in abundance. Perhaps something in the office will...
Good God!
It must be one of Fowlett's inventions. Sir Bromsby mentioned he had asked his lawyer to devise security measures to protect his private documentation.
You could have said something earlier! Holmes searches around, finding a safe, a few burnt documents, and photos of Grandpa Bromsby Mishima. We also find a letter from Fowlett that confirms he was to be at the reception. So where is he?
Look here, this message just came for me. 2 days ago, Mr. Horace Fowlett was seen leaving for the North Country. The constable for the town of Flatton, where the solicitor resides, obtained this information from Fowlett's neighbours.
I guess we're off to Flatham. The town's inspector brings us to Fowlett's house and introduces us to the neighbor. He saw Fowlett leaving yesterday night, which didn't really trouble him. Fowlett had a reputation for being a kooky inventor. We get the key, and Watson is off to inspect the train while Holmes enters the house.
Ah, Fowlett liked his jests.
That's only a taste of Fowlett's contraptions. Upstairs, we find all sorts of inventions that Holmes can somehow identify.
An automatic shoe brush. What an inventor this Fowlett is.
As for clues, the kitchen has
blood
and
gin.
And some of the blood was cleaned off, as seen when inspecting the mop. Outside, we can find a boot print whose size doesn't match the shoes in the living room. Whoever was here snuck upstairs, as revealed by how the window has been jimmied. What's more puzzling is that Fowlett apparently sleeps with no pillow. The only thing to check is the locked safe. Hence, the real puzzle solving begins. I won't go into too much detail, but the challenges are better than in Mystery of the Mummy. Their logic is more comprehensible, and you don't need to profusely explore for items to solve them. Still, they range from solvable if you stop to think, to the usual walk through please come and help me. Still, it's not as bad. Plus, you get to see just how cuckoo and religious Fowlett is.
What card do you play?
Solving the Noah's Ark puzzle grants you access to Fowlett's documents. Among them are letters from Bromsby with concerns about his nephew, Wyatt Collins. Collins seems to have been a troubled child, getting into conflicts with the law more than once, and even having disputes with Mr. Grimble. He was last seen in Brazil, like the cigars at the estate. Things are coming together now. Still, there's one place we haven't checked, the basement. Watson returns with the key, and we head down there to find...
My God, this man is dead, Holmes.
Brilliant deduction. I thought perhaps he was tired and decided to rest under a pile of potatoes, which in turn fractured his skull. Watson, you see everything, but fail to observe. I do not have time for trifles.
There's a time and place, Holmes. The dead body is confirmed to be Fowlett. The only evidence of his killer is a French calling card. Troubled nephews and killer Frenchmen. How do those two go together? Back at Baker Street, Watson recounts his time back at the station. Besides learning Holmes's method of levitation, he also found a couple of key pieces of evidence. Of course, this took a while because I had a hard time seeing one of them, as did the cursor. The most important is a hat with red hair, which we found at the manor on the day of Bromsby's murder. To follow up on the lead are the Baker Street irregulars, led by the young Wiggins.
What can we do for you today, Mr. Holmes?
Or a short 80-year-old Wiggins. We head back to Bromsby Manor and ask around about Wyatt Collins. He's as disturbed as the letters made him out to be, no surprise there. Yet more importantly, he has red hair. What's more, it seems those wedding bells for Lavinia and Harrington are about to chime. Hopefully their wedding cake will be a sponge variety. Lestrade is there, and he's itching to know to whom Bromsby left his shares.
I do hope you've discovered the code, because I did not sleep well last night and I'm in no mood for riddles.
It's a riddle, but we get through it and find no will. There are only bank statements and a letter from someone called Dwight Richards ticked off about a place called Fairfax Theatre, which Grimble owns. We head there and find Mr. Goblet, from the adventures of such and such case. He allows us into the theater and tells us that someone else does the night patrol with his dog. We find Grimble's office and inspect the whole place. There are photos of previous exploits, large dioramas and displays, and a few documents. One of them is a similar bank statement to the one from Bromsby's safe. The other is a threat from a W. Wyatt Collins, obviously. Notably, one of these dioramas is missing a statue, which of course an elephant is snacking on. We can't use it since Holmes doesn't want Grimble to catch on just yet. Instead, we head back to Baker Street, where Harrington meets us to ask for advice. He says that his testimony may get thrown out due to his emotional attachment to Lavinia. Holmes gives him some blunt but sound advice, and the 80-year-old Wiggins says the hat's owner went into Bromsby Cement Works, aka the former Fairfax Theatre. We head back there at night and go through one of the toughest sections in my lifetime. It's a stealth section, and if you're caught, it's game over. I have done this several times, wondering if the dog had a different detection system from its human owner. In the end, it was because it heard me run. Back in Grimble's office, we use the statue to get the Fairfax Theatre key. We then do another stealth section, but this one wasn't too bad. Entering Fairfax, we follow the trail and do some problem solving. By the end, we find a dead body covered in quicklime. The only clues with the body are a passport for someone named Johansson and a bottle of wine from an abbey. Following this is not a stealth section, but a chase scene that almost feels like a Looney Tunes skit. The next morning, Lestrade arrives and tells us that Grimble's business is in a bind. He's now the prime suspect, so the company's profits have frozen. Unpaid workers are rioting on the streets, and Lestrade is being pressured to deliver. Yet, Holmes remains confident.
You see, Lestrade, the dimensions of this case are merely a reflection of the larger faults of our fragile and complicated society. London can be viewed as a game of 4 million dominoes, which are placed one after another just so. Should some event cause one domino to fall, then another domino shall surely fall as well, and so it will continue. To stop this chain reaction, there is only one alternative. You must remove a domino, and this reaction shall cease.
That was black magic. Not even cinematography is that powerful. We also get a couple of other tidbits about the guy who chased us, and Harrington as well. Despite being honored, he also defied his superiors multiple times and was last stationed in South America. This means his defense of Lavinia may come into question. We also get news of the death of the barman from Bromsby's reception. I honestly forgot he existed. How does he figure into all this? Well, from what we find, he pawned an item off that may be of importance, so Watson's sent to find it. In the meantime, Holmes disguises himself to go to the most likely Heretical Abbey. The monk tells us that if anyone is hiding out here, it would be in the forest. The forest is a maze, but finding the way is easy. There are a couple of discernible landmarks like this pond, this bucket, and the ruins that are on fire. Oh crud, the ruins are on fire! Find the bucket and fill it with pond water. You had better be quick because the timer is not generous, and Holmes behaves like a stubborn drunk. When you do put the fires out, almost everything is burnt. Look further back, however, and you'll find a secret wall panel. Inside is a letter whose handwriting should be familiar. Wyatt Collins has been here and has not worked alone. This is one of the few good quiz questions. Meanwhile, Watson returns to the estate and finds Gribble there.
The present situation requires me to be elsewhere. Please be good enough to tell Inspector Lestrade that I renounce any rights to the succession.
Okay, I didn't see this coming. Even Lestrade is taken aback, but it doesn't cross Grimble from his suspect list. Holmes arrives and shows Watson and Lestrade a message from Mycroft. It details Bromsby's final project in India, a bridge that gave British supply convoys a shortcut. The matter faced controversy because of accidents, ritual sites, and man-eating tigers. Oh my! Still, I don't understand how this connects to the murder. Did Wyatt Collins find out about this and blackmail Grimble with it? Did the captain who was mentioned to be against the construction murder Bromsby? That can't be because he's dead. Back home, Watson shows us what the barman pawned off. Oh crud, I forgot the silver earring was even a thing. We need to rewind. When first investigating Bromsby's estate, we find a picture of a woman with a silver earring. Given that Lavinia was in here before the shooting, maybe it's her mom? Well, no. The woman turns out to be an actress named Veronica Davenport, and Lavinia is a big fan of hers. The silver earring confirms that Davenport is somehow involved, or maybe her company, Fairfax Theatre. This is the same Fairfax whose theatre Grimble converted and is still headed by Dwight Richards. So, off to the current theatre we go. Here we can find clues that make this puzzle box of a mystery all the more confusing. It answers a couple of questions, but only one is the most important. It turns out that Miss Davenport was Dwight Richards' beloved. Yet, she also had eyes for a man named Jeffries, Richards' right-hand man. Both disappeared during their last tour and have been missing since. But curiously enough, they didn't take their bags with them, so murder was implied. Particularly, fingers pointed towards Richards, but there wasn't sufficient evidence. Davenport's luggage has been stored in a closet inside the current theater, so naturally Holmes investigates it. It's locked by a complex painting, and it turns out that the key is the silver earring. The catch is that there are two others, one of them held by a sweet girl, and the other by a drunk batty woman.
Why can people not allow actors their peace and quiet? They walk through here as if it were a common thoroughfare. Nothing strange about that. They still haven't bothered to change the locks. Anyone can enter at will and abuse me. Me, who in the 50s, I was rather good actually. Did you see me? With the best, me. And they just treat me and oh.
The nice girl gives us her earring and fetches the old woman's. With all three, we find a picture of Davenport, Richards, and most likely Jeffries. It's hard to tell. One useless quiz later, we can take the ultimate quiz. It's basically telling us, if you haven't solved our multi-layered mystery, we're not saying you're dumb. We just think you are. Well, let me tell you why, after all of this, the mystery itself was mind-twisting. It's not just the quizzes having irrelevant questions. There are also so many details, both relevant and irrelevant. Yet the most pertinent are shoved into the background. You won't see it until the game either makes you look at it or reveals it at the end. I understand that Holmes is able to discern the relevant and irrelevant, making sense of minuscule details. But we're not Holmes. Our capacity to determine anything is related to how our brain is wired. It's what I appreciate about Crimes and Punishments, The Devil's Daughter, and so on. Those games have many details, but pieces them together into larger ideas that are easy to follow. The silver earring has so many clues and fails to be comprehensible. It's probably because the game treats the player as an observer. Video games give us the opportunity to be a part of the mystery, even be in the detective's head. Here, it's like watching a mystery show where you're not able to solve anything alongside the detective. It just doesn't translate well. Still, how does the mystery end? Who was it that killed Sir Bromsby?
Well, good afternoon, gentlemen. You made the right choice to leave London. It is unbearably foggy. But Lavinia, darling, what's going on?
She knows.
But how? I mean, what? What does she know? I don't understand. Whatever do you mean?
Oh no, you understand me clearly, Mr. Harrington, and you also, Spencer. Or should I say, Mr. Jeffries.
Wait, Jeffries was the drunk carriage driver? That guy we only talked to for like half a minute? Okay, so here's the kicker. Harrington was the prison warden during the time Davenport went missing. Jeffries killed Veronica Davenport because her love for Dwight Richards was strong. And Jeffries was a tad obsessive. Jeffries and Harrington became pals, so the former was let off. After her death, they met Wyatt Collins, who told them about Bromsby, the will he made, and how creating a forgery would make them rich men. At least, that was the plan. When Harrington convinces Lavinia to love him, he and Jeffries find a way to cut Wyatt out of the picture and keep the inheritance to themselves. So, they kill Wyatt Collins, stuffed his body at the old theater, and let the blame fall on Grimble. But, most importantly, the wedding cake was a lie. They nearly got away with it too, if it weren't for that meddling Holmes.
Bravo, Mr. Holmes. Well done. Accept my apologies, my dear Lavinia. I think under the circumstances it would be best if we postponed our engagement. I'm sorry for your father, but what do you expect? We had to give it our best shot.
Don't forget the meddling Grimble.
They are all yours, Lestrade.
Wait, how did Grimble get involved? Holmes explains that he was certain of Grimble's innocence. The bank accounts found were, in fact, going to orphanages in India. He and Bromsby felt guilty about the harm done in building the bridge and wanted to atone. Plus, there was enough evidence to show that Bromsby was going to give Grimble control of the company anyways. So, Holmes had Grimble renounce his succession to make the perps believe they were winning and draw them out. Wait. Holmes was doing things in the background without us participating in it? Shouldn't we, the player, be involved in all this? You know, participating in the mystery? Let me tell you what I got right and wrong. I caught on that Harrington fired the shot and killed Bromsby. I knew Grimble was innocent. I also tuned out Bromsby's bank dealings since that wasn't related to the overall picture. I knew that the Fairfax Theater Group were involved somehow, especially when finding out that they had an officer's uniform that was missing. I knew Wyatt was involved since he was the only thread connected to Bromsby. Yet, I concluded that Harrington was Jeffries in disguise and Lavinia was secretly Davenport. Both women look alike. I never realized that Spencer was Jeffries since he was only there for 1 minute. Also, there is nothing else to tell you that he was involved. The one photograph he's in has his face blocked out. He could be anyone. This is all on top of quizzes that don't ask important questions. You still have to figure things out on your own. A better quiz would have given relevant questions with answers that would have led to more questions. For example, have one about Jeffries, aka Spencer. Why was he the only one unaccounted for? That can draw suspicion on him and have the player try to connect how he may have been involved and why. As it is, the secret of the silver earring is okay. It makes improvements over Mystery of the Mummy, better graphics, better audio, and black magic galore. The puzzles are still hard, but most didn't feel impossible. My biggest problem with this game is the mystery. It is elaborate, but I felt disconnected, like I was observing a puzzle while solving extraneous ones just to keep watching. And yeah, you can argue that's what the game's Up to Crimes and Punishments were, but I was able to follow their stories. Here, I felt that some details that should have been relevant were pushed to the side, and the quizzes only added to the confusion. If you want to play this for the puzzles, okay. If not, I see no reason to play this one other than a mystery I just spoiled for you all. Still, thank you for watching. I'll take another break from Frogwares Holmes games and finish reviewing the Middle-earth series. But this next video, it won't be a mere review. It's a send-off. And what a send-off it will be.